Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nephio Community Webinar. Today, myself and Bala will cover the Nephio long-term architecture. I'm Sana Tariq, Principal Architect at TELUS. I am currently serving as Nephio TSC Chair and also working in SIG Architecture Vice Chair. And Bala is SIG Architecture Chair, and he'll be covering this session with me. So, starting with why Nephio? Nephio is a Kubernetes-based intent-driven automation for network functions and underlying infrastructure. That's an open source collaboration where service providers came together, cloud providers came together, network function vendors came together, and we have been using GitOps principles and K8 native principles to drive a cloud native automation. Nephio is very well positioned, one of the most adopted open source project right now under LFN that has been driving the cloud native vision of automation for the past 3 years. Nephio has made 5 releases to date and it's still getting strong. And we wanted to share this webinar with our broader audience to share how Nephio is evolving and how it's driving the ecosystem across various players. It's DevOps and GitOps friendly. We have an ecosystem of cloud providers who are adopting these principles and taking it to enterprises, service providers. Many telco service providers are active within the community, and we are driving these vision and efforts in the cross-functional ORAN, 3GPP, Silva, CAMARA, other ecosystem players as well. As GenAI and AI in general is taking hype within the industry, Nephio is very well positioned to drive a lot of those transformations by its native Kubernetes-based patterns and how we are driving some of the work in the workgroup 6 that we have covered. And there's episodes of the webinar, and with some of it we'll uncover today as well in the session. This is Nephio's long-term architecture. What is Nephio attempting to solve? So we are attempting to solve the deployment of network functions, the configurations of the underlying cloud, and managing the network functions lifecycle, starting from its configurations to the ongoing management of those network functions on the cloud. And the ideas behind Nephio are based on Kubernetes principles. The blue block here represents the Nephio core, which is heavily focused on our library of CRDs, our operators, our SDKs. The underlying layer shows Nephio controllers, and the above layer shows the Nephio core APIs, which is constantly evolving and improving as we are delivering future releases. On the northbound side, Nephio exposes our APIs through Kubernetes native API patterns. And on the southbound, it's actually managing multi-cloud and multi-networking capabilities to constantly evolve and position itself with the broader ecosystem of the enterprises and telcos. Nephio is heavily focused on the GitOps and CI/CD principles, and it's managing its synergy with the GitOps and the DevOps world. Currently, we are managing Porch with constantly improving its stability and trying to ensure that this actually fits into a brownfield of the existing deployment framework that is across different enterprises and telco communities. Nephio is fundamentally based on 3 principles. The first principle that is actually heart of the Nephio is it's intent-driven. Nephio exchanges the DNA or follows the DNA of Kubernetes, which is intent-driven by its nature. So following the philosophy, intent-driven describes that we have to define our effort at an extremely high level, like what we want, and let the system figure out the actuation and make it happen at the lower level of details. We are using operators and CRDs, which enables this philosophy. Nephio's second most important principle is distributed actuation that increases the reliability across distributed fleets. And the third and the most important principle within Nephio is uniformity in the system. As we evolve towards cloud and as the transformation from physical network functions to the virtualized network functions and eventually containerized network functions became a norm in the transformation journey, we actually found a big problem of many vendor-specific tools and proprietary systems that were actually very difficult to evolve and maintain in an operational world. Because Kubernetes is a common denominator across all deployments, Nephio is based on Kubernetes principles that actually reduces that common skill set and the common denominator across all these systems. So it relies on that simplest Kubernetes skill set and the Kubernetes patterns, which is a common denominator that actually simplifies your operational efforts and actually brings in uniformity in your systems to reduce redundant tooling, processes, and simplify your operations. Now, Nephio have released 5 releases at the moment, and looking at its adoption from a leading service provider's perspective, I wanted to share that what do we want to see in Nephio going forward that would enable more and more service providers to adopt that. From the tooling perspective, we want Nephio to be cloud and tooling agnostic. We need Nephio to work on any Kubernetes environments, be it public cloud providers, for example, Google, Amazon, Microsoft. We have to make it work on any private cloud distribution. We would love for Nephio to support Git and all the GitOps systems, because in an existing brownfield, how do we embrace and adopt Nephio? These are kept on Nephio's basically releases and roadmap. Nephio is heavily dependent for a lot of its principles realization on Porch, and we are looking to stabilize Porch, and Bala in the subsequent section is going to cover more on how we are making various releases and enabling the stability of the Porch. The next extremely important pillar for Nephio from a customer's lens perspective is its AI adoption. How is Nephio enabling the vision of the AI in our operating models, and how we are working in the Nephio's Workgroup 6 to enable the use of AI to across its users, across the platform evolution, and across the adoption of Nephio in various verticals. That pillar in itself is extremely important, how Nephio serves as an enabler and how Nephio simplifies some of the framework on the AI that we are developing across various organizations. We are looking at three different aspects for AI adoption. Adoption of GenAI to basically improve user experience. The second most important part that we are focusing in the Workgroup 6 is adoption of GenAI to improve network experiences. How do we manage the lifecycle of our network? How do we manage the observability and health of the network? How do we use the CRDs to drive more intent-driven autonomous network vision? And we are also looking at the architectural readiness for AI workflows integration. We have to figure out a way for Nephio to be able to integrate with the rest of the AI ecosystem within every organization. Their vector DBs, internal AI workflows, and enable the operators and CRDs to actually take actions from those frameworks that drives the autonomous network vision through the Nephio adoption. This is an ever-evolving space, and Nephio's project is heavily focused on driving value in this pillar, and there is a lot of active work happening within Workgroup 6. The other very important aspect to Nephio or any customer at the moment is to improve our observability for both the workloads and the platform. Observability has always been important, and it's an even more important area with the GenAI evolution, because that enables you to keep your operations steady, to allow a lot of humans to avoid the manual work, reduce the operational overload. Workgroup 5 at the moment is heavily focused on bringing open source components like Prometheus, Grafana, OTIL, and enable this observability framework. That is going to be very important for us to use Nephio in prime time and production environments, because that continues to stay a very important pillar, the observability of both workloads and the platform, which Nephio is exposing enough plugins to connect with the internal systems and to create some own open source components within the product to evolve on that pillar. Nephio is not working in a silo today. Nephio is a part of the Linux Foundation projects, and hence the community as a leaders, we have been constantly thinking about how do we position Nephio that actually improves our synergy with the other cross-functional projects in the other ecosystem as it stays relevant and it stays useful to the service providers and from a customer's lens. You're enabling the foundational support for realizing future service APIs, and that becomes a very important glue for Nephio to connect and start to bring value of the underlying automation fabric to the northbound systems. Bala in the subsequent section will cover more on how we are working with the individual standard organizations in the projects, but this pillar continues to stay very important from a customer's lens perspective. Telco APIs are gaining a lot of traction. Northbound APIs exposure within Nephio is creating a fabric for enabling northbound APIs, and specifically the development of telco APIs and the CAMARA vision, which Bala is going to double click again in our ecosystem support for cross-functional projects and standards. Telcos are gradually moving from selling connections to a stage where we are looking into differentiated services and bringing more value in the existing customer spaces. The Nephio's 3 swim lanes, the first is infrastructure deployment and automation. Second is an infrastructure configuration, and the third one is the CNF configuration. The CNF configuration, as we evolve towards the future releases, is going to set a significant foundation for the agility and the programmability of enabling differentiated services that then goes into network slicing, creating those multiple tiers for services, and that programmability framework is basically something that Nephio can offer. And cost optimization continues to stay important. Nephio offers a lot of cost optimization benefits by reducing the common skill set to Kubernetes, by reducing tooling, by relying on a lot of open source tools and technologies. So it continues to provide us the open source value from a customer's perspective. I'm now going to hand this over to Bala, who's going to walk us through some of the recent developments in Nephio, the releases, and some of the ecosystem layer as Nephio is working towards. On to you, Bala.
Thank you, Sana. Very, very nice presentation on the overall Nephio ecosystem. Thank you so much. My name is Varadaraju. I work for Red Hat. I'm a TSC member and the current SIG architecture chair in Nephio. So I will add a few more things what are very well coverage by Sana about our project. So one of the main things I'm going to cover is how we are collaborating with other open source bodies or standard bodies in terms of telco ecosystem to cohesively further our cause. So ORAN and ORAN-SC are two of the main things that we are collaborating with. The ORAN standards, as we know, is defining the standards. There are multiple working groups in ORAN, but we are particularly interested in ORAN Working Group 6, which is Cloudification and Orchestration Group. So that group is defining standards for the provisioning of clusters, orchestration of network functions, configuration of network functions. So we are very interested in that working group of ORAN. ORAN software community is actually doing the reference implementations for the ORAN standards. It is again a Linux Foundation project, but it is guided by the working group 1 of ORAN. So our collaboration with ORAN-SC, it's been, we heavily collaborated in the past couple of releases with ORAN-SC, where ORAN-SC, since they are the reference implementations for the software components that is defined by the ORAN's alliance. Some of the SMO components, such as the FOCOM and NFO, those two are two major SMO, which is the manager component in the ORAN architecture. They are those components. Software development is heavily inspired by Nephio, so they have used a lot of Nephio principles to develop that. So in order to do that, we collaborated with the ORAN-SC community. From the ORAN perspective, like Sana explained, there are three main swim lanes in Nephio: the infrastructure orchestration, CNF orchestration, and CNF configuration. Between the O2 IMS and O2 DMS and O1 interfaces, these three things are tackled by ORAN as well. So we want to, since it's heavily influenced and acknowledged, and consensus has been reached in that group by a lot of industry bodies, we wanted to adopt those principles into Nephio as well, so that we do not reinvent the wheel. So we, at this point of time, Nephio Northbound API for provisioning clusters, we are adapted from ORAN. So ORAN API for provisioning clusters is supported by Nephio. The O2 DMS interface, which is native Kubernetes interface, which is also inherently supported by Nephio, because it is Nephio works off of it's a Kubernetes project. It's work off of Kubernetes platform. So O2 DMS interface is automatically supported. From the O1 interface perspective, which is the network configuration part of it, network function configuration, I mean to say. So that's also one of the third swim lanes for us. And then we are at this point of time, we are figuring out how we can support the same functionality in a cloud native way. So O1 is heavily influenced by netconf by ORAN in the ORAN community, but we want to have a netconf interface with the device, but we want to have a cloud native facade to it in terms of CRDs and stuff. So we are integrating with a project called KubeNet on that one. So we are going to realize that aspect as well. So I think that's our heavy focus at this point of time, the collaboration with Oran and NSC. And when it comes to Silva is it also has a working group 6 for orchestration cloudification. Uh, we are at this point of time talking to the folks in Silva how we can find the synergy between the two groups, because we are essentially solving some of the same problems. Whether it could be network function orchestration or infrastructure orchestration, uh, it is some of the same problems we are solving. For example, Silva is heavily invested in technologies such as CAPI, and then in one of the initial releases, CAPI was also supported by Nephio. So we are trying to find the synergies there and see how we can work well together. Uh, and 3GPP, as we know, is defining standards for all the wireless interfaces, whether it be 4G, 5G, or 6G. As the 5G is evolving into 6G, we're also closely monitoring that and see how we can support those use cases in Nephio as well. CAMARA, is an API tool, essentially a monetization tool for Nelco infrastructure and their assets via APIs. And as Sana explained, its Nephio is heavily intent-driven API first approach, and we want to make it an enabler for CAMARA so that some of the use cases such as the infrastructure automation or quality on demand use cases such as those can be realized using an FEA project. So I think these are some of the main things that we are working on. Like I mentioned, we are also working very closely with Kubernetes as well. In addition to that, we are very closely working with Free 5GC and OAIS workloads. Thank you so much, Sana. And this is a little bit of an overview of release updates in the Outlook. So in the R4 and R5 timeframe, we were heavily focused on, especially in the R4 timeframe, we were heavily focused on supporting different network functions. In the initial releases, we had supported Free 5GC, and then we supported Free 5GC Core as well. And then subsequently, we supported both OAI, Core, and RAN. So essentially, one could orchestrate both the core and RAN functions of Free 5GC and OAI using Nephio, and then we even demonstrated the end-to-end call with that. And other aspects, especially in the R4 timeframe, we wanted to solidify our base platform, which is Porch, in terms of scalability and stability, etc., and which is an ongoing exercise which we are doing at this point of time in our 6th time frame, which is going to be coming out in January. It's going to be very stable both in terms of stability and performance. And in the R5 timeframe, we also introduced the concept of bare metal support. So we started bare metal support in the R5 timeframe. We also supported multiple GitOps solutions. So when Nephio was started, it was supported only config as a GitOps tool. But right now, after R5, we support both Flux CD and Argo CD as a GitOps tool. So one could choose whether they want config sync, Flux CD, or Argo CD as the GitOps tool of choice. And all those use cases are supported in R5. In R6, which is in our upcoming release, our main focus is on the platform improvements. Like I said, we really want to solidify our platform, which I'm going to explain in the next slide why it is so. In terms of, we want to make it more stable, more scalable, more performant, and we want to add some of the missing features in the core platforms. So when we do that, we can realize other use cases, such as the one that is we talked about, such as Oran, Silva, things like that. And then observability is another main thing that we are venturing into right now. So we want to ensure our base platform itself is instrumented so that it can be observed. It can be observed, and it provides rich set of metrics and tool sets in order to manage the platform to begin with. And then we also want to ensure the workloads and the other infra components are observable. We are not doing it directly, but we want to ensure that the platform supports those things so that we can realize the use cases such as the AI use cases, closed loop automation, things like that. So we are, and like I said in the previous slide, our ORAN intersection is an ongoing exercise. As the ORAN standards evolve, we will implement those specifications in Nephio project where it makes sense. ORAN is a very, very big ocean. I just want to be very clear. It has specifications for a lot of things, but we in Nephio project we're interested in only those three swim lanes: infrastructure orchestration, network function orchestration, and network function configuration. So anything that ORAN touches, we would like to adopt that into the Nephio project. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, it's a long-term goals and architecture. How we want to evolve the long-term goals. So essentially, right now, we have made some strides towards that. Today, initially, when at least till R4 timeframe, when Nephio was released, everything was released together. The base platform, which is Porsche, and even the use cases, network function support, everything. But right now, if he's what we have done is we have decoupled at least the post release from the Nephio release. One, we could have multiple post releases within a Nephio release and one major release whenever the Nephio release occurs. Uh, some of the long-term architecture goals are disaggregation of core functions in terms of components and release management. I will explain that in a bit. So instead of treating Nephio as a managed single monolith, we want to ensure that there is a core platform which supports all the use cases. The core platform contains, Porch and KPT are our core platform components, and core platform use cases supports are day one, day two use cases for both infrastructure and CNF. What it means is I should be able to deploy a cluster or a network function. I should be able to update it. I should be able to patch it. I should be able to delete it. I should be able to upgrade it. Those are our foundational core platform use cases. So we want to ensure that those use cases and those components are supported and it has its own life cycle as a core component. And then on top of that, we want to have multiple use cases. Some of the use cases are, for example, network function support. Let's say we have support for uh, today we have free 5G support, we have support for OAI, and let's say we want to support SRS RAN or Open 5Gs, things like that. Those are our new use case support for network functions. And we also want to support today, we support pure Git, which is installed as Gitia in the core platform. We want to support GitHub, we want to support GitLab, different Git platforms, maybe Bitbucket, things like that. Those will be the use cases for supporting multiple Git platforms. And then some of the network function vendors are heavily involved in Nephio as well. And if they want to support their vendor specific network function support, and then that's another use case. And then other use cases that we have are transport use cases, not just the core and RAN network, but we also are working today on the transport use case. We have defined the story. We have defined actually some initial work has already been done. Some part will be done in the R6 timeframe, and some will be done in the R7 timeframe. Then observability use cases, AI use cases. So essentially, we want to separate the core platform from the use cases. So just to summarize, there's the core platform that supports the foundational technologies and foundational use cases, and then the use cases will support the network function use case, um, transport use case, observability use case, AI use case, multi-platform use case, etc. So we want to separate both the from the architecture perspective, but also from the release management perspective. We want to decouple these things. Uh, and then the other thing is on the AI use case, Sana has touched a bit on that. We want to we are already working on a user story on the AI stuff. This is on the template generation, how we can use the GenAI technologies to generate templates. Nephio is heavily CRD based, template based. So we want to see at this point of time The user story that we are working on is how we can automatically generate, train a model to generate CRDs for us. And our long-term plan is uh, uh, how the GenAI or the natural language can be used to express the intent. So that intent may be internally converted into CRDs by the Nephio project, and then how it can realize those orchestration use cases in the network. So those are some of our long-term use cases. Next slide, please. Yeah, that's it. I think these are some of the things that we wanted to cover, and these are some of the coordinates we mentioned. We highly encourage more participation from all of you. Please come join us. Reach out to any of us, or reach out to you can get more information from these coordinates, or you can reach us on Slack, or what's the new platform, Sana? There's a new messaging platform by Lynch Foundation. uh, I think we are transitioning to that. I'm not getting the name. Yeah, but anyway, you can get all the links in our wiki. So thank you so much. And Sana, you want to add any closing thoughts?
That's wonderful, Bala. Thank you so much for all the excellent insights. I think we are looking for the community participation. That's why we scheduled the webinar to kind of bring in additional viewers to our progress and the project itself. And we wanted to share with the broader community and gain their interest. And you did a great job, Bala, bringing on some of that interest to some of the relevant use cases that we are working on right now. With that, I would say thank you so much from myself and Bala, and looking forward to more sessions in the webinar.
Cool.
And stay tuned.
Thank you so much, Sana. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.